Kia ora. My name is Michaela and I wrote this book, Ascension, when I was 16 and I haven't read it since then. So read along with me as I figure out if it's cringe or creative. If you haven't been following along in this series, make sure you check out my other videos. We are on chapter 3. This is part 2, so make sure you go back and watch/listen to the other chapters before you listen to this one so that you're all caught up. So we're on chapter 3, which is called New, and we've just met a bunch of new friends. I'll just read the last line so that we're fully caught up. Bobby and Tash faced the front when the teacher turned the lights off and started the movie. Isn't Shakespeare boring? Shav whispered to me. I giggled. Shakespeare was boring. I mean, some of the things he said did make sense, but most of it was just him waffling on about useless stuff, and he was completely sexist and one-sided. Totally, I mean, why wouldn't he just speak English? I told Shav. I know, what's ironic is that he is actually from England. She sniggered with me. We continued to whisper throughout the movie, undetected by Miss Rowland. We exchanged contemplations about how mad William Shakespeare really was. It surprised me how quickly I got along with Shav and her friends. They were so easy to talk to. The energy heightened mine and gave me some much-needed confidence. I wondered why they liked me so easily. The bell rang halfway through the film, and everyone rushed out the door before we were forced to watch any more. Once we were outside, Shav asked, "What have you got next?" "History," I replied, looking at my timetable again. "Right, so that is over there, past the science block and to your right." She pointed in a vague direction towards my right and nodded at me, still smiling brilliantly. She then looked pointedly and gave Tash a look that reminded me of a mother giving her child a silent set of instructions. Tash acknowledged it and sprung over to me suddenly giddy. "We have it together," she exclaimed in her high-pitched voice. "Awesome," I said, imitating her excitement. We giggled for a while, nothing in particular, and waved goodbye to Shav and Bobby. They were holding hands casually as they walked away, and I became curious about whether they were going out or not. Tash, as if she heard my silent inquiry, she rolled her eyes at them and said to me in an annoyed tone, "Yeah, they're going out." I looked at her, surprised by how easily she read my curiosity. Trying to divert the conversation, I asked, "How long?" and then felt guilty about how nosy I was being but Tash didn't seem to mind all that much. "About a year now," she sighed, bored. Being their friend, she must have had to field questions about their relationship before, so I decided to keep my curiosity to myself. Not that I needed to ask any more questions. She went through the rundown of them and the rest of the group of friends anyway. It made me feel good how she assumed I was now part of their group. I laughed to myself how easy it had been to make friends in the end. Eli would get a kick out of that when I got home. Apparently there was one other member I had not met. His name was Sam, and he was Bobby's best mate. She told me how they had all become friends when she had moved here 2 years ago with her family, and they hadn't parted since. We eventually made it to history, and after Tash had sweet-talked the teacher into excusing us for being late, we sat down at the 2 desks and continued our gossip session. The teacher, Mr. Pete, was oblivious to anyone who was talking over him while he ranted on about World War II. It seemed obvious that most students enjoyed their teachers rather than learnt from them. In a way, it seemed kind of sad, and I made a promise to myself that I would at least try to listen next lesson. After all, I did want to pass history. It was less intimidating walking around the school knowing someone. That way it didn't make it that obvious that I was new, and I didn't feel so paranoid about people staring. It was easy to talk to Tash. She was so bubbly and positive, and I found I had a bit in common with her. She also owned a scooter, and she promised to drive with me to school the next morning to show me the ropes. and it made it easier to say yes, seeing as one, I had no idea what I was doing on that thing, and two, we lived in the same area, so she didn't seem to mind it that much. It turned out Bloomsbury wasn't that big anyway. Tash and her friends sat in the seniors' courtyard on a table that was dubbed theirs ever since the beginning of the year. The picnic table was identical to at least 5 other arranged outside the common room, but I didn't argue. I was just happy they wanted me to sit with them. As we walked across the courtyard and towards the table, Shav jumped up and started waving to me enthusiastically. She exchanged expressions with Bobby and what I could only assume was Sam. They must have been talking about me when I joined them. Sam was smiling with the others, just as interested about me as they were. How disappointed they would be when they realized how simply normal I was. Sam had black spiky hair, gelled hair, and beady black eyes. He was shorter than Bobby and lankier, but as me and Tash sat down and introductions were exchanged, I could tell he could hold his own in a conversation. While we ate, we talked mostly about me and why I moved here. They seemed eager for me to settle into my new life, and I was invited to Shav's 16th birthday party next weekend. You have to come, she dragged out. It will be great. I didn't want to hurt her feelings by arguing, so I let her invite me. I'm sure. What do you want? I asked. It seemed strange to me that I knew Shav all of 2 hours and I was already going to her 16th. No, she shouted at me, waggling her finger in my face. Don't even think about it. No presents. We're just getting her a joint present, Tash informed me. We can put your name on it too. Don't worry about it. Bobby shrugged off. I looked around at my new, very generous friends and realized I was outnumbered before I could even try to insist to reimburse them somehow. Shav opened her mouth to say something further, but she was cut off by the bell for third period. Ugh, physical education. It wasn't too bad. Bobby was in my class, and we were learning how to play soccer. It was going well until I accidentally kicked him in the shin while attempting to kick the ball. He laughed it off, but I felt horrible and apologized profusely. Here he and his friends were being perfectly friendly to me, and all I could do to repay them was to injure Bobby. When the bell rang again, I got changed and met Bobby outside the gym to walk back to the courtyard for lunch. As we reached the table, I could tell Bobby wasn't going to tell on me. But as embarrassed as I was, I felt I should be honest. So I told them of his injury, and Shav cooed over him lovingly. Eventually, Tash and Sam got annoyed at them and exclaimed, "Get a room!" Shav kept looking at me strangely after that, and I got worried, thinking it was because of Bobby. It wasn't. What? I asked after about 10 minutes. She shook it off and smiled at me at my annoyance. Then turned back to me and asked, "Why is Blake staring at you?" As if she had been thinking about asking the question for ages. I followed her gaze behind me and saw Blake sitting with his friends at another table. He nodded his head in acknowledgement and waved at me. I waved back and then turned back to continue eating my lunch of last night's pasta. I really hoped it didn't mean what I thought it meant. He was nice and everything, but I didn't really like him like that. Well, Shav demanded, expecting an answer. She was looking me up and down over her small black glasses with her piercing light blue eyes. I looked around, trying to shrug it off, but they were all staring now, expecting my answer as much as Shav was. "Oh, we met this morning," I replied casually. "He knows my godparents. Do you know him?" I asked, reading her amused expression as I explained. She scoffed at my question and gave a disgusted look in his direction. For a moment, while I waited for her answer, I pondered whether there was any history between them. She didn't seem to like him that much. I took a sip of my water from my drink bottle as she replied. "He's my brother," she said dramatically. "Oh," I spluttered, choking on the mouthful of water as I coughed. Shav and the rest of them laughed at my reaction, and she patted me on the back, helping me recover. When I did, I looked up blushing. They must have read my reaction wrong. Right now they were thinking, she's just surprised because now she has to be careful about what she says about him in front of Chav. That would have made me laugh, but I was really only surprised because if he didn't like me like that, which he didn't, my not being mutual to his feelings might hurt my new friendship with Shav. Well, do you like him? Tash squealed. She was bouncing in her seat again. No, I said, a little too convincingly. They looked shocked at my forceful reply. I quickly tried to resolve the situation. I mean, we're just friends. Well, he likes you, Tash continued girlishly. Where were we? In year 4 or something. Why did I have to like someone as soon as I got here? I didn't look easy, did I? Oh God, I hope not. Jeb was still looking at him disgustedly. Look at him, she said, laughing now. He's gawking. What a dork, Tash added, laughing at him too. I felt a pang of regret. I didn't want to lead him on or anything. He seemed like a nice guy. I kind of felt sorry for him. I looked at Bobby anxiously, asking for some sympathy for the poor guy. Maybe being a guy himself, he would have that perspective. He read my pleading look wrong. Who can blame him, Maribel? He said in a matter-of-fact way. You're hot. Yes, Sam agreed, with him nodding at me. Now that was just great. As if I wasn't paranoid enough. I was already screaming hot, apparently as well. I suddenly felt how short my skirt was, and how much of the little makeup I had put on this morning. I looked at my hands on my lap and avoided all eyes. I heard Shav punch Bobby in the arm, offended by him, for either her or for me. Don't be so demeaning, Bobby, she shouted at him now. Why do guys have to objectify girls like that? Do you realize how degrading it is? Tash laughed and nodded unconvincingly in agreement with Shav. I looked at Shav pleadingly, and she was struck with sympathy for me. I don't mean to be, I trailed off, not being able to finish my sentence as it sounded too vain. They giggled, and Tash awed at me. Well, Mirabelle, Shav shrugged at me, serious now. She looked scared, like she thought I would implode at what she would say next. Well, you kind of are really pretty. Even Sarah Holmes is jealous of you. I shook my head. This was ridiculous. I didn't know who Sarah Holmes was, but I was sure she had no reason to be jealous of me. I saw all the heads snap up, all with the same look on their faces. They were looking behind me in Blake's general direction. What? I asked wearily. It was getting a little old and immature. He's coming over, Tash answered, as she arranged herself to face Bobby and Sam next to her, pretending to be in a deep conversation with each other. I bit my lip now, even more anxious. Chev looked anxious too, but at me. She fussed with my hair, fixing it for me. I swiped her hands away and shook my head, mouthing, but I don't like him like that, at her. She read my lips and nodded, taking in the information. The others were too busy pretending not to see us. I saw something click in her hand as she looked up at me, grinning. She was planning something. Oh, sibling rivalry. I knew it all too well myself. She looked behind me, still grinning, now at her brother. I heard him approach, and I turned around, grimacing. It was meant to be a polite smile, but I failed horribly. He wasn't looking at Shav's cheeky grin. He was smiling at me, friendly, again. Hey, he said to me in his deep voice. Hi, I said nicely back to him. My head was swimming with my recent conversation about him. Hiya, Blake, Shav piped up, narrowing her eyes at him. He looked at Shav and rolled his eyes. I see you've met my annoying little sister, he said to me. Of course she did. Mirabelle knows a good friend when she meets one, she said forcefully at him, then winked at me. Whatever, Shav. He shrugged her off. He crouched down to my level, blocking everyone else from our conversation. Having a good day then, nerd? Fine, thanks. And you? I said politely, trying not to flirt back automatically. It was until I had to talk to my sister, he laughed, with fake disgust. I laughed with him and shrugged. She's not that bad. I guess we'll see you on Friday, he asked, changing the subject. Friday? I inquired, confused now. Oh yeah, that's right, Shev interjected behind me. I turned around to face her. She was overexcited again. The parentals are having a barbecue with your aunt and uncle on Friday. She was nodding at me urgently now. They come over to watch the rugby with us whenever Canterbury plays. I nodded back at her. We must have looked pretty silly nodding at each other like a pair of noddies. I smiled and shrugged at both of them. I guess I'll be there then. Awesome, they said in unison. I'll see you on Friday then, Blake said cheerfully and stood up to go. Before he turned around and winked at me. We all stared after him as he walked away. I looked at Shav and we laughed together. He is so clueless, she spluttered. But I'll protect you from him. Don't worry. I couldn't help but laugh. Shav's laugh was so infectious. Everyone else soon joined in, and we all had stitches from laughing so hard. With tears rolling down my cheeks, I wondered how many times I had cried since I came to Bloomsbury. I didn't mind that much. I felt comfortable around my new friends, and I knew that they were good friends to make. I could be myself around them, or at least someone who I liked being. So that was the end of chapter 3. Was it cringe or was it creative? This chapter, so we met a lot of the characters at the high school, her new friend group, her best friend's brother, who was kind of like a little bit of a love interest at the beginning, and he's a little bit older. I do think a lot of the characters kind of blend into the same way of speaking. They don't really have their own personalities yet. But I'm hoping we'll see that a little bit more as the character development happens. Like, I changed the name of the town when I was writing this, when I went back and published this. So sometimes little New Zealandisms sneak in, like when I'm talking about the rugby, it's Canterbury. Though it is funny that I talk about soccer because normally we would say football. And yeah, I'm married now, and football is a big part of my in-laws, my husband's family. And so it's funny that of all the sports to mention in this book, I mention rugby and football, which are both a big part of their lives. Yeah, just a few little quirks in there. I modelled Tash and Shav after 3 of my friends because I wanted 2 female characters, and I kind of wanted to do a nice ode to the 3 of them, 2 of which I still speak to. So hopefully they get a kick out of this. So Shav is my friend Shannon, and Tash is my friend Charsh. Very creative. The cool thing about our friend group is that we all came from other cliques, and then we started hanging out. So we kind of all accepted that we're all different, and we didn't expect each other to, if you like this one thing, I'm not going to make fun of you for it. In fact, I'm probably going to embrace it more because that wouldn't be something I'm exposed to before. But I very much wanted to show how loving and accepting friends can be in high school, because usually the story is of someone who isn't accepted. So I really wanted to show that her friends were like her family in this book. So hopefully we'll get to see that a little bit more. What did you think? Was it cringe? Was it creative? Hopefully this episode isn't too long. And now I am uploading to YouTube. So if you're someone who listens to ASMR at night, or read with me, or soft spoken, or anything like this, maybe TikTok isn't the right place for you to be consuming this kind of content, which you can head over to my YouTube. It's the exact same username at Michaela Clemens. Otherwise, comment below. Was this chapter or part of the chapter cringe or creative? And stay tuned for chapter 4.